mamas. I'm Lacey, your lactation counselor, and you're listening to the Early Motherhood Guide podcast, where motherhood is simply supported. Today, I have the opportunity to talk to Megan Bello. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Megan. I am a first-time mom. My baby is almost 6 months. Um, and yeah, we're surviving.
So, what made you decide to breastfeed your baby, and did you do anything to prepare for breastfeeding?
My mom was super, she loved breastfeeding, and she was the first one to breastfeed. My grandma did not. My grandma was she was formula feeding. She had my mom, and then she had two twins after she had my mom. So my grandma was wanted for some reason, was formula feeding her babies, and my mom always felt like when she had her baby she wanted to breastfeed. So I think she passed that down to me because I was just always very much like, that's what I'm going to do. And I think that was has been why I think I've been still breastfeeding, and I don't feel like I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I love to do it. So it does. I'm the second generation with my family. My mom is really supportive of it, which I know is super. I'm very fortunate for that, because that's not that can be difficult. I have other things that my mom and I disagree on parenting wise, but the breastfeeding, we're right on top on the same.
Yeah, you're very lucky because I think not everyone, back in the 80s and 90s and 70s, like that was not typical. I'm definitely the first person in my family to breastfeed. And so it's, yeah, completely different. And so it's very nice to have that somebody that can model after, and you can model after, and then have those questions answered. Is this normal? Especially like you typically share the same anatomy. So it's like, did you struggle with this too? Or any of that. So that's really nice and kind of rare. So, did you face any challenges with breastfeeding so far?
Well, in the beginning, we were worried because I had a home birth, and I ended up losing a lot of blood, and my placenta was retained, and so I had to have an emergency transfer.
Oh no.
So because of the emergency transfer, and because I needed 5 units of a blood transfusion, they were concerned that I wasn't going to, that I was, that my body was going to be kind of a shock mode.
Yeah.
But that fortunately wasn't it. I feel like even though I did do some reading about breastfeeding, like I really wasn't prepared for it. Um, but I think that's just everything great about motherhood, is you're not prepared for it, but you just sort of like go with it. And I've always from the beginning, I feel like I've had a baby who really knows how to do, you know what I mean? Like I feel like she was born like ready to do this. So I feel very fortunate for that as well. But that was the first thing, was I had to do a lot of nursing in the beginning to make sure my milk was going to come in and at the volume we wanted it to. And so that has its struggles. It's really hard. And I think it was day 3 or day 4, and I was like crying as I was latching her. And my husband, who was like also very pro breastfeeding, was like, "We can get formula. Are you okay?" Because I was so like, I was like, "It will pass. It will pass. It will pass." Because my mom had told me, she's like, "It's going to suck. The first couple days is going to be so hard. But if you get past it, it's the best thing ever. Just get past it." Um, so it wasn't like perfect, although it feels more than it was now. If you would have talked to me probably like the second weekend, I probably would have had a lot more details as to why it did suck, because it wasn't this great in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, you're in that sweet spot right now in that 6 months. I don't know if your baby's yet at that distracted point yet. No.
Mm,
Okay.
the
It's like,
the room, like out
yeah,
of all the time.
yeah. There's like this sweet spot where they've got it figured out, like they're pros at it. But then just before they get that distracted point where there's like any little noise and they're like, what's that? And then you're flashing the world or spraying the world. And so it's just that's always the fun part at that stage. But interesting that you the retained placenta is like my biggest fear. I'm so sorry that happened. With hemorrhaging, like, how was that recovery, and how did that impact your supply at all? Or, like, I mean, I can't imagine you have to be so exhausted at that point.
Yeah, I was actually, like, talking to my husband about it yesterday. I'm like, "I can, like, literally remember the life leaving me." Like, I remember just losing blood, like, and I was something's wrong, I don't feel good.
Yeah.
Um, but, I didn't have a lot of I well, because of the how quickly the emergency transfer, I had to, I was holding my baby, and then, I had to leave her with, the 2 women at my home and then go. So they actually fed her, at first. So they gave her some breast milk. Um, and, like I said, it was just it was a 3 or 4 days, I think. It
Oh,
was like I was on the later end of, like, getting my milk, and then, like, I was starting to get a little bit like, oh no," like, because I was like, I will breastfeed, but I also, like, know that, like, I don't have full control, you know what I mean? Like, I was also like, I will have a home birth, but I had a retained placenta, like, I needed to go, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So, um, I was very fortunate, and I think it was just I was constantly nursing. I read something, I think, on Instagram about how it's like an ice machine, and you have to just keep emptying it.
Yeah.
So for some reason, that analogy has stuck with me. And
I
so
like
I
it.
was like, "Okay, if I keep asking for ice, you will eventually give it to me." Like,
Oh, I love that idea. Yeah, it is a demand and then supply, so the more you do it. But I have never hemorrhaged, so I can't speak from experience. I know some friends that have. I know many friends that have, and so it is a scary, scary situation. So, and to have it to be your first, I can't imagine what, what an
yeah,
experience.
and a home birth too, because like your first home birth, I feel like a lot of people at first are always like, "Oh, I can't." But at first, and, like, I'm still processing, and I still
Mhm.
definitely have, like, trauma from it, that I'm working through, but it's almost like I'm ready for anything now.
Yeah,
Like, I know what it feels like to lose 5 units of blood. I know I won't lose 5 next time. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like, I have identified, like, where each of the you know what I mean? So, it actually makes me feel more confident in a weird way, in a way that I didn't think it would.
yeah.
Um, so, but
Holy cow!
it yeah, but she 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 was a little, like I said, it took a little bit because she was kind of full, she'd already eaten, so she was a little disappointed when I wasn't, you know, um, she wasn't getting the same, but, it was little by little, and, the bonding, and I was just so grateful to be alive and with her, so, I think that helped the happy chemicals too.
Yeah, and you kind of missed out on that golden hour. It
I
seems.
did.
Yeah,
That was that's been the biggest thing for me to process losing
yeah,
with the home birth. That's very much so, I feel like what you focus on when you're going the home birth route, you know?
yeah,
Um, so to have that be what was specifically gone was kinda like, "Aw," like,
yeah, yeah. I think a lot of motherhood, like, in general, is just, like, you have this idea of how it's going to go and how you're gonna be and how the whole thing is, and then in reality, it is completely different, and sometimes, like, that one thing that you really held on to just never happens. Um, yeah, because I did not get the golden hour as well with my first, and so that doesn't mean the others I did. So, but, you just can't control, and breastfeeding and birth has its own they're different, all different.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so how did that happen? What happened? Like, walk us through those first few days. So, were you in the hospital, I'm assuming more than a day? How long were you
They
there?
let me go when you are the hippie girl who had her baby in the farmhouse,
Yep.
and the emergency brought you, they know you don't wanna be there. So
Yes.
I was only there one day,
Okay.
but she and because, but the doctor was, and I live on a farm because I believe in nutrition. We are what we
Yeah.
eat. We raise our own food. We drink bone broth from chickens and ducks that we raise ourselves. We have our own vegetables in the freezer. Like that's just really that's really important. So I had also hired a postpartum doula, and I was like, please make me all of this beautiful. Like, I had the postpartum sort of like nutrition there.
Yeah.
So when I had like my pudding cup, Like, I'm like, "Please let me go home." Like, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna recover here. I'm not. Like, I've now that I've been more beat up, you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
definitely need my bed and my baby. So it was only one day. The hospital that they transferred me to was a godsend. They moved me out of ICU so my husband and my baby could come stay with me. So
Oh,
I was only separated from her for the surgery. So as soon as I came out of surgery, she was there. Um, and so we were all able to recover, which um, was, I think, a huge blessing in disguise for me, was to get the benefits of recovering in a hospital that you don't necessarily get in a home birth, that I won't have when I have my other home births that hope that, don't
yeah.
transfer, So I had nurses there to help me. I wasn't able to move because losing that much blood, and they had to wait for
Okay.
my strength to come back. So like anytime I had to use the bathroom, I had to be wheeled around. So that was kind of hard, but it was good because I got to all I could do was sit there and nurse my baby. So
Okay, great.
that worked.
So
That
then you
worked.
didn't have to pump, I'm assuming. It was all be able to nurse.
No, yeah, I didn't have to do any pumping. I actually had to use a breast pump for the first time a week and a half ago, and I was like, I don't know what to do. So I think I mean, I did it right. Because I had to take some anti-nausea medicine, and I wanted to be extra cautious. So, yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm pumping and dumping like this, okay. And then I put the breast pump, I cleaned it, put it away because I don't need to use it again. So I'm like scared of pumping. I don't know if that's normal, but like,
It can be very foreign, if you're especially if you're only I mean, it all can feel foreign in the beginning, but, yeah, if you gravitate towards one over the other, it's like I feel the same with the sometimes pumping, you're just like, "What is this machine attached to me?" I feel like a cow, but
yeah, especially on a farm, I'm
yeah,
like, this is
that's
weird.
exactly how it works. So, were you having to nurse lying down when you were at the hospital then?
Um, I was, yeah, pretty much just like
Yeah,
laid back in my bed.
yeah,
And I because so when I got there, because I had my daughter and it was just the retained placenta,
yeah.
she was the patient. I was the patient. So I had to sign a bunch of paperwork that she wasn't the patient. They weren't going to give me diapers. The lactation consultant didn't need to come see me, but she still did. Like, so no one, like, I didn't have the, total uh excuse me, experience, even though I was in the hospital,
Ah,
but yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought and got super thirsty.
you're good. So, yeah, I was asking about nursing while lying down, because even that can be tricky in itself, right? So if you're having to just rest and breastfeed, sometimes even just not having that traditional, cradle holds or cross cradle holds can throw you through a loop when you're just nursing, like nursing for the first time. So I'm assuming you have to do more like a laid back position. And you did have a lactation consultant come, which is very nice.
Yeah, she came for a little bit, and then my husband was there when she was there, so he learned too. So he helped me a lot as well. I'd be like, I don't, how do I put her on? So we would do that. But yeah, there. I mean, I don't remember it being, and it could have been just coming back to reality, but I don't. I remember just being so in awe of how she was like. I mean, she wanted more than what she was getting, and she like, just that was definitely really cool for me. To see all that, but
Yeah, with in the it's my first, I had him in a hospital too, and so well, not two, but I was in the hospital as well for that one, and it was an experience with the lactation consultant, right? Because you have all these hands, and you're like, how am I going to do this at home? I don't have all of your hands.
yeah,
Like all the pillows, they're like, here, stack up the 10 pillows, and then you have all these hands, and everyone's pushing and pulling, and you're just like, okay, this, how am I going to recreate this?
right, yeah, yeah.
Nice. So how was that? Coming back home. So now you were only there for a day, which cracks me up. And then you came home, and is it easier? Was it harder? Because now you don't have those nurses on call. But you have a
It was
postpartum.
it was harder,
Okay.
and it got harder and then it got easier. Like it
Yeah.
was up until it was like it was probably day 4, day 5 that and like I had lanolin and I was so sore and because I just was nursing her constantly. She was definitely like a cluster baby. So
Yeah.
um and I was my husband was home. I had my postpartum doula. She came 3 days a week for 4 hours a day for 4 weeks. So I did have that support there. But she was she the only thing she ever really cried for was milk. So usually that was her only problem, was that she wanted to be nursed. So once I was able to latch her, it was just like the pain of the latching and starting.
Yeah.
Um, um, that was the biggest but I just would try to grin and
Oh
just get
no.
through it. Not and because I mean, honestly, like I said, I mean, I'm on almost 6 months now, but
Yeah.
it's not that hard right now. But I'm hearing that it's gonna get, and of course she's teething too, so she hasn't got a tooth yet. So I know that that's gonna just be great. So
It depends. So some it's just like the best comfort, so they're like you have that tool now. So you can nurse them anytime they're upset and it doesn't matter what hours. Like it's perfect. So in some ways it's amazing. Other kids, they want a teether. And so it really depends on you have no idea. So it's not to scare you at all. It's just the joys and sometimes it's like it's funny when you look back at it. But
yeah.
yeah, that sweet spot is it's something that I cherish. It's like when they're little, but they have the swing of things. I really
Mhm.
enjoy.
This is
Okay.
fun. This is the most extreme sport I've ever done, but it is super fun.
Certainly burn a lot of calories too.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So you were saying that you I'm assuming you breastfeed exclusively since you were nursing on demand, but you had that one time where I'm assuming I'm doing a lot of assuming here. You were talking about the midwife gave her breast milk. Was this a donated breast milk?
She actually nursed her.
Oh, she did.
So,
Wow.
yeah, she was because she was nursing her baby already. So and I had lost 5 units of blood all over the place. So I think it was like a we got to do, and I that's what I would have preferred anyway.
Yeah.
I wanted to have breast milk and from the tap, whatever, right?
Man, how ideal. Like, I mean, that's a one-stop shop right there.
I know. I was like, this was very farm to happen on my farm. Like this was, like like the hippies win, I guess, still. Like
Yeah,
I don't
that is awesome. I love that. How long? I'm just curious, how long were you home before they called it a retained placenta and sent you, transferred you?
oh well, because I had her. I had contractions. The first one was like at 11, and I was like, oh my God. And I took little screenshots of Labor Aid, like I was gonna go make something. And
Yeah.
I also had a list of songs, like I was gonna
Oh, yeah.
play songs that no, that was hysterical. Yeah, everything I thought I was like, I thought I had prepared. No, no, you don't prepare. That's all I learned. You just don't. Um, and so it was like about 6 hours. So then they started for sure at like 2 a.m. at like 8 minutes apart. So that's when I called my midwife and my doula. Um, and I had her right at 8 o'clock. And then the last picture I took, and I can see kind of the blood on the bed, was 8:48.
Yes.
So 8 o'clock I had her. I FaceTime my family at 8:02. And then I was like, I have to go birth the placenta now. So we went to the bathroom and I was on the toilet. And so I thought I had birthed the placenta because it was a lot, but I was like just in love with my baby. Like I was, like, oh my God. But I thought we were doing it. And, it was like, we got to get rid of the placenta. We got to birth the placenta. And it, it wasn't coming out. And the next thing I remember, I was like, I need to lay down. I need to lay down. I need to get off the toilet. I need to lay down. And, so I went to the bed to lay down. And the next thing I remember was my husband was holding the baby. Well, because I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do with the placenta, which is odd that it got retained and I didn't have a plan for it.
Yeah.
Um, but I knew I wanted to leave her attached as long as possible. But when I had moved to the toilet and I was sitting there with her attached, I was like, I had this feeling like I can't, I need you to take her. I need someone to take her, this baby right now. Which I thought was odd in the moment because I'm like, I'm on my high. Like I've been reading
Mhm.
about this. I'm ready for this, you know, like my golden hour, and I want to give her away. Like that seems weird, but okay. Um, so we had cut the cord then. Um, and so I went back to the bed. So my husband was holding the baby, and then they had thrown my legs up. And we then my the doula called. My husband and I discussed, and the doula called for the ambulance. So I know they came when they showed up. I wasn't actively bleeding anymore, but I think I had lost the majority of the blood in the toilet, and so we none of us had really noticed
Mm.
that the amount, because I'm a chatty person. So even in transition, I was still talking. So like nobody really knew, like, because I just don't stop talking. So I was also talking when I was dying. So it's hard to tell. But the last thing I remember was I hit the emergency room, I think 3 hours after, but I had stopped bleeding, but I think I had just lost everything. My blood pressure was about 60, I think, if I remember when I hit the doors. Um, and the last thing I remember was I didn't have my glasses on, but I could see my husband because he had a big beard at the time. I could tell he was like super nervous, but then the doctor had wrapped his hand around the umbilical cord and was yanking on the placenta,
Oh.
and like it wasn't coming out. And that was about, I think it was about 3.5 hours, because I remember overhearing the doctors talk as I could see the blood, the bags. I remember thinking how crazy that was. Like, that's the blood coming to me. Like I'm in this
Mhm.
situation. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
everything was so by the book. It was such a regular, normal labor, like, you know, at every minutes and this. And then, you know, I pushed for 10 minutes, and I was, you know, in the position, like, and in a very normal position to be as a laboring woman. You know what I mean? Like, um, so yeah, that was, so they said that the doctor was like, it came out in chunks, like it, like he couldn't remove it, like it was extremely calcified. And like
Sure.
because he asked me, the hippies, like, I'm assuming you want this, and I'm like, I actually don't. um I just want to have them in my room. I don't want the placenta back. But
That's hilarious.
so yeah, but and so I know that like sometimes they don't necessarily come with a hemorrhage. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
sometimes mamas can have babies and the placenta doesn't necessarily come out in the half hour. It's not necessarily an emergency. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um, but yeah, it was pretty wild to go from like, this is what I expected, to like, here I am, like in the hospital. Like,
Yeah.
whoa.
And yet you push past or like push through it all, and here you are, and you also push past all the latch. And I wanted to ask you on that with the latch. Was the irritation when you were feeling it? Was it from when you were hurting? Was it from irritation of the same spot over and over again? Or was it like pinching? Did you ever figure out what the irritation was?
I think it was just full, just overused. Like I had never touched them so much in like those 3 days, you
Yeah.
know, like my body was just, if she had been sucking on my elbow for that long, I think it would have been chapped and destroyed. You know what I mean? Like, it was, I think it was just more of a physical thing. There were some latch issues. I had to make sure that I would, sometimes she'd purse
Flare.
her lips, you know, and like I'd have to make sure that they were open. Like, but other than that, she's she didn't, I guess she doesn't have any like ties or anything. I've been really fortunate for that, because
Yeah.
her life has been really good. Even that's what the lactation consultant had mentioned that too. She's like, you have a good baby. So she's like, if you keep latching her, you will get milk. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Which is great. And that's so great that you had that opportunity to have a lactation consultant, even though she wasn't the patient.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It was
That's
like a rogue lactation consultant.
I mean, they should help you out while you're there. But
Right.
so you said you live on a farm and you grow your own food, and so that's a
Yes.
huge focus for you, which I think is so awesome. Is there any type of food that you chose to focus on while that you're nursing?
I love to do bone broth. So we just I try to do 2 fresh birds a week. We haven't processed in a while, so that hasn't been happening. But I usually have broth, either chicken or duck. I actually prefer our duck over our chicken. They're a bigger bird. I feel like it tastes just like a better chicken meat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they and then it gives you a lot of grease. So duck grease is obviously very healthy for you too. Um, So yeah, we focus on that for her now. We grew a lot of squash last year in our garden. So I've got a lot of frozen puree that I had prepared for her specifically for baby food.
Oh,
So now that
wow.
we're moving into 6 months, we're working on all that. Um, and then I just tried it at I made a protein powder because they say that organ meat supposed to be really good for you, but like, ew, organ meat, like hearts and livers, like,
Yeah.
ugh, you know. And my husband is Cuban, so like I told him, I'm like, I'm an American and I like my meat and muscles. Like that, I just want muscles. Like that's all. No, I don't want anything else. So I made powders. I've been doing more smoothies with the powder of
Smart.
the organ meat, so I don't have to think about it, and it just tastes like mango. So I could, yeah, because I just feel like I'm gonna get more from that, you know, from an organ meat in a powder than I would for any powder I could buy
Absolutely.
anywhere, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's like a whole new level of like making your own like protein powders and growing your own baby food. Like I love that. I've been vegan for 6 years, so I don't think I could ever physically put a liver in my diet.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I felt so bad. I was so hungry because you're so hungry and you're breastfeeding.
Oh
I was in a
yeah.
packed class and I opened a bag of jerky and this poor lady next to me, she's like, I'm a vegan. I'm like, I'm so sorry, but it like hit her face. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm starving and I need protein. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's like
It doesn't bother me at all, but I think it depends, like, it would be more on, like, pregnancy, like, my 3rd pregnancy, I could not look at meat, like, the whole pregnancy, like, the whole thought of meat just I was done for the day if I saw it, like, it was was, like, such a bad aversion, but, fortunately, it has not been the case this time, so and
great,
yeah,
great.
my 2nd was coffee and peanut butter, I was like, "Wow," like, way to ruin all the good things in life.
Wow. Yeah, no kidding.
I know.
You're just supposed to have no fun when you become a mom.
It's it was I can enjoy them again now, so I'm good, but,
Yay.
I haven't tried wheat since, but that's okay. It's just a whole I kn you it's very good to have a higher protein diet when you're breastfeeding. It is needed, so I'm just kudos to you for going the extra mile because I don't think I could. And it cracks me up that that doctor was, like, offering he's like, "Oh, you're a home birther, you want this placenta, right?" Like
Yeah, like, it was very much like the hippie in room 7, like, she's the one that came off the ambulance that needed all the blood, like,
Yeah,
yeah, that one.
it cracks me up. Yeah, 'cause, I think a lot of doctors would just discard it, like, will not even ask you, and so that's interesting.
Yeah, I know. It was very nice. His notes are really nice. When I looked on the portal, because you can usually tell,
Yeah,
an attitude. Because I think at the end of the day, as long as you're birthing the way that you wanna birth as the mom,
yeah,
that's the key. So, no matter where you're comfortable, like, that's so the home birth mamas who, shame a transfer or exclude someone who's been transferring, or you know what I mean? Like, it's all birth, and all of us
mhm,
we need to be informed about what we're getting no
yeah,
matter what it is. So, yeah, like I was really happy that the hospital I went to was very much embracing with that, and then very, very respectful. It wasn't like you don't know what you're talking about. I'm right, you're wrong. It was like, no, I know you have healthy food.
yeah,
Um, and the doctors told me, they're like, you're free to home birth again. You're a bleeder, so keep an eye on it next time, please. Um, but see you next time. Like
yeah,
they were, it was just it was a very healing experience,
yeah,
when I kind of think about it.
yeah, that's really great that you had such a great staff because, not always the case.
Right.
But yeah, no, there's no discounting how it went, like, you obviously have no control, and it sounds like you had an amazing support system, which is awesome, like, in all stages of it, which is really what you need and what matters. Hello, sweet girl. Hi. So, what is your plan, for how long you wanna breastfeed?
I um I don't know. She is super interested in solid food. So
Yeah.
um I mean, I would think that, like, I mean, I'll breastfeed her as long as I want to. I do want to have more than one child.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would assume for her, she'll probably get more of my breastfeeding energy than any of the other ones will. um, you know, um, but yeah, I mean, the plan is just to breastfeed her as long because she does, if it does help her nurture her, and it's
Yeah.
so good for her brain. You know what I mean? Like if
Yeah.
there's, and if it's been normal and I would be fine if it was up for 2.5 years if that was what, she wanted to do.
Yeah.
But I'm open to it now. How it's going now is great. So I'll definitely keeping it up.
That's great. I think it's really helpful to not get stuck on a date, because I think it's so hard because there's another person involved in the whole thing. And so having like her involved and being like, you need to breastfeed by this date, or stop breastfeeding at this date can be very hard
Yeah.
on both of you. So good for you for just taking it as it goes. Because um, I think that's something that I've learned from having three so far is taking it day by day. It just only made it more enjoyable. Like I've just cherished all of it. And so, yeah, I think the determination went away, and so much just kind of enjoyed it. And I think you just get so much more out of it when you take that stress away. So good for you. Um,
Well, thank
yeah, I love that. So looking back on your experience, what advice would you give someone who's about to start their breastfeeding journey?
Don't give up. Just keep pushing through it. Like do it for 2 months.
Yeah,
Um, Rarely do I hear mamas, like, because I have other mom friends. Um, Most of my mom friends that have that were unable to breastfeed, usually they didn't go past that first week, which I get. Like I was, you know what I mean? Like there's no, like I definitely never feel like I love breastfeeding so much, but I never want to be like, you know what I mean? Like it was hard to get to this, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
parenting is sacrifice. So it's sort of like, what do you want to sacrifice? Like I wanted to have I the pain and that thing I wanted to take. I just, honest to God, couldn't fathom waking up and making a bottle in the middle of the night. Like, oh my God, that sounds like so much work. So like, you just sort of pick your hard, right? If you avoid what's hard, it's going to be enjoyable. But if you kind of understand it's going to be a tough journey that you have to earn, it's not given, you have to achieve it, and work for it. Then you'll get it. Yeah.
sweet baby. Yeah, true. I know some people are like I can't. I don't know how you breastfeed and you cloth diaper and all the things. I'm like, oh, it just seems so much easier. I'm like,
I see,
it's
and
so much.
I don't understand. I could not cloth diaper. I bought a package of 12 like an idiot, and like I no. I started like really changing diapers, and I'm like, I'm I'm disposable. Like I don't know. It's just like I said, we all have our things. There is not
Yeah.
like one way, right?
Oh no, no.
Like, and
Yeah.
I applaud you. I applaud a cloth diapering mother. Like, oh my God, you should be running the world.
Oh,
Like,
but it was so helpful. Like when everyone went on lockdown and I had all the supplies. It was really helpful. And so it's just a little laundry. Like it's just another load. It did not bother me at all. So it's just like how I think, you said you pick your hard and it wasn't hard for me. So I don't know.
for
Anyway,
number when I'm at 3, maybe I'll change. You know what I mean? Like I'm open to changing my ways, but first time mom
you got a
Megan
lot. Yeah.
started changing diapers, and I was like, I'm throwing this away.
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's a lot to learn, especially in the first year. So um, anyway, so has work, because you were saying that you are a real estate broker, right? You own a real estate brokerage. How has that impacted being able to breastfeed at all?
It hasn't. I throw on my cover, and when I go most places, I found that I was doing more than I should have. I was really having these really insane like requirements upon myself. So I have moved to where the majority, like I teach my classes on Zoom now, and I have moved to like where I am where I can more comfortably breastfeed her, because I do, breastfeed her on demand. But like I'm I have an elected position at this on the board of Association of Realtors, so I have to go to Vail twice a year, and so like I took her to that when she was 4 weeks old. So like when I need to go to things, I'll still show up and be there. And then I just I just feed her. Like if she's hungry, she eats, and if people look at me, I look at them back, and no one's really said anything to me yet. Like
Yeah.
uh, I just kind of carry the energy of, it's only weird if you make it weird, bro. So
Yeah, I agree. It had from the 7 years that I've been a parent, it has changed so much on, like, the awareness and just being accepted to just breastfeed in public. I've noticed, and, like, baby wearing and all the things, like, people are more tolerant of it, which is very nice, but, like, it really freaked people out when I would nurse in front of them, and I was so unapologetic, whereas but now I feel like it's just maybe everyone is just accepted that I'm just that person that's just gonna nurse no problem in front of you, or I just feel like now people are not they're not having a hard time, but it also could
I
be
I
where I am.
I had a Christmas party, and I just was running around with her just on me.
Yeah.
And this is probably what she's crying for now. So,
Yeah, you woke up, you're hungry. Okay. And so where is the craziest place that you've had to breastfeed?
oh, okay. The craziest place I have breastfed was when she was 4 weeks old, and I was voting with my Colorado Association of Realtor board. There was 150 of us, and we all had little clickers. And I was sitting right behind the guy that I had taken to arbitration and won. And I was feeding my daughter like right behind him, and then people were like, and I had to vote. Like I'm a board member. Like this is why I came here. And then yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, I think that's probably the only crazy one. I feel like she does all sorts of things to grab onto me at night, but I yeah, I think that's the craziest. Oh, I fed her in a hot springs pool last week.
Nice. That
So
sounds
that wasn't
amazing.
bad.
Yeah.
If
What's your favorite part of breastfeeding?
um the fact that they know we're always going to have skin to skin connection.
Yeah, it's so sweet.
That
Oh,
is so special to me, especially being a mom that has to like divvy, when I mean we all have to divvy, but like um, I just working, you know what I mean? Like I know even if I'm working, like I'm connected with her because I'm feeding her, you know what I mean? Like I'm bonding with her now, even while we're talking. Like to be able to do that in something else
yeah,
is really good.
it's pretty amazing. I love that. All right, where can these mamas find you?
I am on Facebook, Megan Bello, Bello. My website is motionhomesgroup.com. You can follow my business page, which is also Motion Homes Group. My Instagram is Megan Bello 0102.
Awesome. And I will link all that down on the show notes below. So thank you so much for being on here and sharing your story. I loved it. And thank you everyone
Thank
for
you. That's
listening.
great.
Yay. Yes. Thank you everyone for listening to the Early Motherhood Guide podcast. I will see you guys next week.